All right, all praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want to say peace to each and every one of you in the name of the Son. I always count it a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach, to bring a message that's contained in His Word, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's message. I know it's a little late, but it is on how you must worship the Lord, how you must worship. You cannot worship based on your own standards. And the reasons you can't worship based on your own standard is because of who the Most High is. To put it in simple terms that we can understand, you wouldn't go on a job and subject yourself to the supervision or administration of somebody that is ahead at that job and then give them the terms of how you're going to do that job. Now, that's amongst men on a job, right? You wouldn't do that with any other person or any other, whether it be body or a legal body or whatever it is that has authority. You know, whether the authority came from the state itself, you couldn't necessarily just say, well, this is how I'm going to do it. Why? Because they have rules. Where do their rules or laws come from? How are they justified in carrying out, telling you to do something or not to do something? It's because they have authority. They're legitimate for some way, whether it be that the people in a particular place have determined this is how we'll be governed, and this governmental body has power to govern, has the authority to govern. This is the sheer power of the office. That's amongst human beings. When you're talking about the Most High, you're talking about something entirely different. And the Lord, He showed us how. When I say Lord, I mean the Master, the Messiah, the Christ. He showed us that in the way in which He was totally obedient unto the Lord, right? Unto the Father. He showed that He was without sin. Everything He did, right? He even did the things that were contained in the law concerning worship. Okay. He kept all the feast days. He observed those. He did everything that was required in the law, showing you how you're supposed to serve. Now, why do you do that? Because He is Elohim. Why do you serve? And Elohim or Yah, the Father, is sovereign. Okay? He's sovereign. He's not like you. He's not like me. He's not a regular individual to which you can maybe determine how you're going to interact with somebody else. But when it comes to Him, it's not how it is. And man makes a mistake. When I say man, I mean people, individuals, mankind. Mankind makes the mistake of coming up with your own standard of worship. But you can't do that because you don't have the authority to do that. Let's pick it up in Matthew the 15th chapter. Matthew the 15th chapter here. I want to read something here because He says something about improper worship. This is what people do all the time. And this is something that people do even when they claim to have knowledge of the law. And I believe that this comes about because if you do not approach the law with sincerity, you will misinterpret the law. To justify yourself, you will misinterpret the law to ultimately fulfill the lust of your flesh, of your carnal flesh. So now this is Matthew 15 chapter in verse 1. It says, then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. So now these who were supposed to be engulfed in the law, these Pharisees, these scribes, they are concerned with man's tradition. As hygienic as it may be, it is not written in Torah, which is the standard of perfection. It is not written that one has to wash his hands before he eats bread. And so the Lord, he calls them on their hypocrisy. He says, but he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? So he's saying you're actually breaking the commandment. And when you breaking the commandment, that's what sin is. 1 John 3:4, whosoever sinneth transgresseth the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. So it said, for God commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. Honoring your mother and your father is the first commandment. It's one of the 10 commandments, It said, but ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have you made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. In other words, you're saying that it is a gift, like it's not mandatory. Well, a gift is freely given. So in saying that, you have basically added some leavening to the word. You have adulterated the word. He says, ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draw nigh to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And that's what people do all the time. But we, oftentimes we think of the Christian church, or what's become the Christian church today, and their folly and them doing this, absolutely. But you also see this amongst those who claim to be following Torah. Just like you see it here. These people weren't celebrating, these scribes and Pharisees weren't celebrating Christmas and Easter and Sunday worship. No, but they even added to the law. They even took away from the law. Okay? He says, notice what he said. He said, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. And that's the thing. You cannot worship the Lord. You cannot worship God or the Father based on your traditions, because your traditions are the traditions of man. And one thing about it is, man doesn't have a lake of fire to cast you into or a kingdom to grant you access to. That's not, man doesn't have that. Man does not have that authority. And the only authority that man has is the authority that's given by the Most High. So how do you have to worship him if you can't just come up with your own standard? John, the 4th chapter. John 4 and verse 24. It says this. The Messiah says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So if you call yourself worshiping him, how do you worship him? You have to worship him according to the truth. So the question becomes, what is the truth by which you're supposed to worship him? Let's go to Psalms 119. Psalms 119. And we'll pick it up at Psalms 119 and verse 142. Notice what it says here. David writes, King David writes, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Right? So you want to know what the truth is? It's his law. Same psalm. This acoustic psalm. We're going to pick it up in verse 151. He said, thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are truth. So we just read what truth is. We read truth is the law. We read truth is his commandments. So Torah, mitzvah. Let's go to the gospel according to John again. John, the 17th chapter. And then he says something in the 17th verse. He says, here again, the master again, he says, sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. Okay, so what do we have here? We should understand, number one, you can't worship him according to the doctrines, the traditions of man. We understand. So how do you worship him? You must worship him according to truth, for God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in the spirit and in truth. What is truth? We read his laws are truth, his commandments are the truth, his word is the truth, and that's how you must worship him. And he gave you explicit instruction, because that's what Torah is, instruction on how to worship him. And when you go beyond that, you are you open yourself up to be punished. Let's look at this. Let's go to 2 Samuel. Let's see an example of this. 2 Samuel. This is 2 Samuel. Now, this is during the time during which they're trying to bring up the Ark of the Covenant. 2 Samuel, the 6th chapter. 2 Samuel, chapter 6. So they're trying to move the Ark. Now, it says in verse 1, 2 Samuel 6:1. Again, David gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people that were with him from Baalah of Judah to bring up from thence the ark of God, whose name is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, that dwelleth between the cherubims. They set the ark of God upon a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in Gibeah, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drave the new cart. Okay, so they put the Ark of the Covenant on this new cart. Okay, verse 4. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the Ark of God. And Ahio went before the Ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps and on psalteries and on timbrels and on cornets and on cymbals. Okay, so they're doing this, right? They're playing and they're rejoicing. They're worshiping, right? They're in the midst of their worship. What happens? And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. So the Ark of the Covenant seems like it's going to fall. To steady the ark, seems Uzzah puts forth his hand. Verse 7. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error. And there he died by the ark of God. So he killed him. He killed him on the spot. Now you would think, man, why would he kill him for that? Because you can't just engage in worship of him however you want. We can understand this to put it in a different perspective. We should understand as a child, when your parents give you rules, you can't just change the rules. They gave you rules. Well, what does their authority come from to give you rules? The fact that they are your parent, right? Daddy said we can't go to wherever, to a party or wherever, so we can't go. It's really that simple. So now the Father of us all gave us instruction, and it's very specific. See, you can't say like if for example, your parent tell you as a little child, when that street light come on, you better be in this house. And it's 10 o'clock, you still outside, and then you come in the house. They say, where you been, boy? I told you to come in this house when the street light came on. You can't say, well, at least I came in the house. No, you didn't follow the instruction. Your father told you to come in the house when the street light came on. He didn't tell you to come in the house at 10 o'clock. So you would expect a punishment. Why is it when it comes to the Most High, we don't expect a punishment? That doesn't make sense. So here he killed him. And then it says, and David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day and said, how shall the ark of the Lord come to me? But now let's pick it up at the First Chronicles. And see something here in First Chronicles, because he figured it out. What was the problem? The problem was that he never told you to put it on a new ark. He never told you that's how you're supposed to transport the Ark of the Covenant. This is First Chronicles, the 15th chapter, in verse 11. So now David is preparing to move the ark. Notice what he says. And David called for Zadok and Abiathar the priest, and for the Levites, for Uriel, Uzziah, and Joel, and Shemaiah, and Eliel, and Aminadab, and said unto them, ye are the chief of the fathers of the Levites. Sanctify yourselves, both ye and your brethren, that ye may bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel unto the place that I have prepared for. Then he said, for because ye did it not at the first, the Lord our God made a breach upon us, for that we sought him not after the due order. So the priest and the Levites sanctified themselves to bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel. So what was the problem? They didn't do what he said to do. What did he say to do? Exodus. Let's go to Exodus. Exodus, the 25th chapter. Now notice the ark here. It says here in Exodus 25 and verse 10, and they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. Okay, so let's talk about the ark. But notice what it says here. And thou, in verse 13, and thou shalt make staves of shittim wood and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. So now they had these staves, they had these rings on the side, and they had these staves, and they put those in, and they bear it on their shoulders. That's why when you read about the conquering of Jericho, they're bearing the ark on the Levites are bearing the ark on their shoulders. See, he never told you to put that on a new ark. He never told you you're supposed to put your hands on it. And now he killed them right there. He killed them on the spot. The ark was nothing. The ark was powerful and nothing to just deal with haphazardly. But he told them specifically how they were supposed to do things. Last place. This is Psalms. And so in David's day, when he figured that out, when he realized that, came to his mind, things worked and they were able to transport the ark. This is Psalms, the 19th chapter. See, you're not dealing with just a regular person. This is not somebody you could just, he's totally sovereign. So one sin means you can be cast into the lake of fire. See, you're not dealing with a regular man or some feeble man or just nothing, not at all. Notice what it says here, Psalms 19:1, and it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament show his handiwork. So where does this authority come from? Well, authority really begins in the Bereshith. What do we read in the Bereshith? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. See, it shows his existence. The mere fact that he did that shows you his sovereignty. Right? The fact when he made man and brought him into his consciousness and gave him instruction, he gave him mitzvah, a commandment. Why did he do that? Where does the authority come from? The fact that he brought him into existence. Just like when you bring your kids, we'll have a saying with our kids, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. Right? Because what are you saying? You're stating your authority as a parent. Well, you have one that's over all, that has the utmost, the highest authority. So nevertheless, it says, day unto day utter speech, and night unto night show of knowledge. There is no speech, no language, where their voice is not heard. So the creation itself speaks to the existence of the Most High. He said, the line is going out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun. So when you look at the heavens, you're seeing evidence of the Most High. Right? Even the sun being out there. You didn't do it. Your parents didn't do it. Who did it? Right? Then it said, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoices as a strong man to run a race. That's talking about when you see the sun manifesting. Then it says his going forth is from the end of the heaven, talking about the sun in this circuit or his orbit of the sun unto the ends of it. And there is nothing here from the heat thereof. All right. So once you clearly that he exists because you see the creation, but then he says something else. Verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect. It is fitting that the next verse is dealing with his law. Because once you understand that he exists, you must, the next logical step is to determine what he requires of you. And he will manifest that to you in a number of ways. See, and that's what people don't want to do. That's why they don't acknowledge him. And that's why even when they claim to want to worship him, they will add their own spin because they still want to fulfill the carnality of the flesh and at the same time get the reward that they know is inherent in keeping his commandments. So you're trying to fulfill the lust of the flesh and fulfill the law. You can't do both. You can't do both. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You have to submit. So he said, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are righteous, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be deserved are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping of them, there is great reward. So we just need to understand that if we're going to worship him, he's a spirit, and we must worship him in spirit and in truth. And with that, I want to remind you that we at the House of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue at Gary, Indiana, at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. Again, that's 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We also have our Virginia congregation that meets every Sabbath at 153 Garrisonville Road, at the Red Roof Inn, 153 Garrisonville Road at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you are edified.